Hello and welcome to another episode of the NBA 2K podcast. I'm your host, Rib, or Ribeiro, or whatever you want to call me. 2K25, we are well underway now. It is August 11th when this episode releases. And we're literally less than a month away till 2K25, which is crazy to think about how time flies. It's almost September, it's almost Halloween, it's almost Christmas, it's almost the New Year once again. And I gotta be honest, my favorite time of year is the fall. Not just because of 2K, but just in general. I like the vibe. Anyway, so I do have some stuff to get into that people may have or may not have seen. As you know, every year, or maybe you don't know because you're new, Mike Wang and a few others now, they answer questions that people might have on social media and whatnot. But this year, one of the big differences is that in the official Discord, the community 2K employees there have been able to basically pass along questions from the community to developers, and then developers are able to answer back, all in the Discord. So not so much on Reddit, not so much on Twitter, although there are some devs still doing it on Twitter. There's been a lot of questions and also a lot of answers that are strictly in the Discord, and there's a lot of good information, and I'm going to get through some of that in this episode. I also do want to thank everybody that's been listening and following. I was recently looking at the numbers from, let's say around April to today, August, and the numbers have been steadily climbing. Not just listeners, but followers, and I do minimal marketing. I don't spam the podcast. I will make a tweet about it when it releases and post an episode link on Reddit when it releases, but I don't really do any active marketing. So really good to see. I'm happy there's people that enjoy listening. And yeah, let's see where this takes us with 2K25. So this is a big one, and I actually have this marked down because this is actually huge. Can we choose our jump shot in the build tester? That's the question. And the answer, and this is from Zach Timmerman, the developer. When you enter the build tester, you'll be presented with a screen that's much like the gameplay animations menu in My Career. You can create a jumper, create a dunk style, and swap animations in out for every gameplay category we have. Then you can test in freestyle, 3v3, or 5v5. What you do here, however, is temporary. It's simply to test drive what your player could be capable of. That said, if you find animations you like, you can favorite them and they'll show up at the top of your list once you enter My Career. So let's break down what this means. If you are new to NBA 2K and you're listening and you're thinking about buying 2K25, or maybe you briefly played 2K24 when it was free with PS Plus or whatever, if you're new to the game, you may or may not know when you make a build, there's really no way of testing it other than you make the build that you want, you put the attributes, and then you change your overall. You can slide the overall, so if you want to test it as an 80 overall or test it as a 90 overall, and then you select 3v3 or 5v5 against AI, with AI and against AI, and that's basically as far as testing goes. You can choose takeovers you want as well, but that's as far as it goes. You don't actually get to change animations other than the default jump shot. So it's not very good the way you would go about testing a build or labbing a build. And in 2K25, what they're saying is that you're going to have a lot more freedom here and you're literally going to be able to select animations that you want to test for the build that you make, which means, in a sense, people won't have to guess what attribute requirement you're going to need for what animations, because it's going to show you whether the animation is locked or not locked, depending on your height and your attributes and all that. Every year that information does get released, and like you can go into game and you can check it, but there's a lot of people, especially the newer people, the more casual folk, that don't even really know about how attributes and animations are tied together, and how height and attributes and animations are tied together. And people just kind of go to just play and they just kind of figure things out as they're going. Well, now you'll actually have a good idea of what kind of build and animations you're going to have before you even spend any VC on the build. What I like the best about this is actually probably the simplest thing about this that should have been in the game forever, is being able to test your build in freestyle. So what that means is you'll be able to go into a court just yourself with the build, and I'm assuming there might be like NPCs on the baseline that can like pass you the ball, and you can shoot and you can dribble around. There's no shot clock, there's no actual game, it's just you on the court testing out stuff. I really like that, and I'm happy that's in there. And I'm probably not going to do a 3v3 or 5v5 at all, like ever, when making my builds for 2K25 because of freestyle. That's how big freestyle is for me. Yeah, I mean, choose your animations and you can lab them without being stuck in a game. That is a very welcome update, and it sounds like a small change when you think about it for a second, especially as a new player. Like, it doesn't sound like much, but for people that have been playing 2K for a while, you understand that it's going to save a lot of time. And I think time is right. That's everything. Speaking in general sense, outside of 2K, if you can save time on stuff, that to me is. That's huge. So, very welcome update coming to NBA 2K25 that I did want to bring up. Another thing is the height caps. And again, if you're a veteran of the game, I guess this doesn't apply to you as much. But if you're new, you're going to want to know this. 2K every year, at least in recent years, I don't know how many years in a row they've done or not done this, but there's been height cap differences, and this is like a way to balance the game out. So in 2K25, the point guards, the shooting guards, and the small forwards are going to be 1 inch shorter by like the maximum height. So when you're making a point guard in 2K24, if you go and try to make one right now, you get on the game, go and try to make a point guard, you're going to see that the height cap goes up to 6'8". And in 2K25, it's going to go up to 6'7". And then shooting guards as well, they're going to go one less. Small forwards, no more 6'11". Small forwards, there's going to be 6'10". And the thing that I find interesting is the power forwards and the centers did not have their height cap changed from 2K24. A power forward can be at most 7 foot, and center at most 7'3". And we've had 7'3" centers for some years now, and every year people will be like, hey, we have this player and this player that's taller than 7'3". When are we going to have, centers go to 7'4" or 7'5"? And, the answer from 2K is it's complicated. It's very complicated to balance out height, especially with the center. And it would take changing the game in a very big way. And I guess what they're doing with 2K25 by not changing the power forward and centers, but making every other position shorter, is they're giving a little bit of power to the big men, and that's not a bad thing. Big men have been getting dunked on, and big men have not gotten the respect they deserve. Not to say that big man builds are bad; they're really good, but I think now you're going to see big men thrive in a way that we haven't seen in a while in 2K25. I'm going to go back to like, I don't remember if it was 2K19 or 20 where post big men, 7-3 post big men were meta and were a lot of fun, especially in the park. Maybe not so much in Pro-Am team play, but I do remember 7-3 big men being very viable like 5-6 years ago. And in 2K25, with the courts not being bigger, because I don't think the courts are necessarily bigger, but the player models being smaller and the guard and small forward position being smaller, while the power forward and centers are, big. They're actually big player models now. I think you're going to see that discrepancy in size a lot more game to game. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's fine. I have no complaints. And basically every year it comes down to this. In terms of metas, are the big point guards way better than the small point guards? And so should the center be a smaller center or like a bigger center? Every other position in the middle, you can kind of mess around with it a lot. And I'm talking about like in recent years. But in 2K25, I don't know if big point guards are going to be a meta. But short point guards, I think, are going to be popular once again. Maybe not so popular as they were, some years ago. Because I was going to say 2K24, even because it's biased, right? I'm trying to think, okay, I played little point guard pretty much the whole year in 2K24, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they were meta. I think in Pro-Am specific, because that's another thing. It's each mode has their own meta. I didn't really play Park, but I know that a taller point guard would do better than a shorter point guard in Park. But in Pro-Am, I don't think that's the case necessarily. So it's hard to really have a conversation about this because there's people listening that only play Park and people listening that only play other modes. But anyway, hey 2K community, are you a competitive player who likes money? Prove it on Gamer Saloon, the ultimate arena for NBA 2K players. Whether you're a pro or just starting out, Gamer Saloon lets you challenge players from around the world and win real cash prizes. So no more playing 1v1s to brag about it. Now you can get paid for winning. Gamer Saloon offers a seamless platform with various tournaments and head-to-head matches, perfect for every level of player. Listeners of the NBA 2K podcast can sign up today at gamersaloon.com/ribpodcast. All one word, gamersaloon.com/ribpodcast. Link in the description. Point guards that are tall are usually really strong in all areas. And point guards that are short are usually elite at shooting and dribbling and not much else. But they don't really need to do anything else when they have those tools. So 2K25, we still have to see if the 6'7" point guard is going to be, something really good. My first point guard in 2K24 was a 6'6" point guard, and I love that build. I still really enjoy it right now. Like, thinking about it, it had high defense, high shooting, decent playmaking. Finishing wasn't so good, but everything else was really good for a 6'6". But my 6'4" is still my favorite because of the 98 midi and the 95 ball handle, the 94 3. So we'll have to see. But that brings me to another thing, and that's a tweet I saw from Wolf, and I'm going to look for it now. This was actually a Reddit post, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because I saw it on Reddit. I didn't actually see this on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And the reason I saw this is because this post was actually getting a lot of attention in a controversial way. Whoever made the post is not very happy, and I'm going to read now what Wolf, he's a developer who was actually a Pro-Am player. He was a lock, I believe, and he joined 2K as a developer last year. So this is his first full year, I think, working with 2K for 2K25. And yeah, so this is what he said. For all my guards out there, be open to using a smaller guard in 2K25. Smaller guards will have more attribute points to work with. You will also have access to the new badge, Mini Marksman. Personally, I have been enjoying playing on a small guard. Typically 6 foot to 6'2" is the height I make my, in quote, small guards. Obviously, height will always have great benefits, but don't sleep on the smaller, quicker guards in 2K25. Now, the original poster that made this titled it, just catering to the comp community who think that basketball should be a sport where small players dominate over the bigger ones. Meanwhile, big footers don't get much love, will always have their post hooks nerfed after the comp community cries 2 weeks in. Bigs barely get any viable animations either. So, very controversial because it's true in some sense, and it's not in a lot of other ways. Now, let's break this down a little bit. First, let's talk about what Mini Marksman is, and that's one of the new badges, and you may not have seen. I will post a link to these badges. I'll post a link to this post. I will post a link to the Discord so you can go look at the questions and the answers yourself if you haven't already. And let me look here. Looking through the Mini Marksman. The description says, elevates the likelihood of making shots over taller defenders. And if I remember correctly, I don't remember if it was Wolf or if it was Mike or somebody else, could have been Zach. They said only guards 6'3" and under can get this badge. Okay, so what that means is that any guard over 6'3" would be considered a big point guard. Because this is a badge for small point guards and you can't get it if you're over 6'3", that's what that means in very simple terms. That could change. I don't know if that's if that's an actual thing, the specifics of it having to be 6'3" and under, but I think that would make sense because 6'3" has always been the default point guard height. And when you think of the best point guards in the game right now, Steph Curry, Kyrie, they're 6'3". So, yeah. So, what is that going to do for little guards? They're going to be able to hit the shots that little guards love to hit, the contested shots, the middies, those front fade middies, or middies from a screen. A point guard uses a screen to get into the mid range to shoot. Off the dribble shots, of course. That badge is I think, really significant for small guards. At least they're making it out to be very significant, because this Wolf tweet is not the first time I saw this badge being mentioned. Like I said, somebody else said that this badge is for 6'3s and under. So, should small point guards have this much power? And the simple answer is yes, because they're tiny, right? Which means they usually have no strength. They usually have no or little defense. They usually can't finish very well either. And I mean, their strength is being able to shoot, being able to dribble / play make, and have good speed. That's usually the strengths of a small point guard. And it so happens that is also something that 2K community, I think, loves as a whole. I think if I was to guess, what is the most played position, it's going to be the point guard. And what is the most played height? I would probably say, 6'4s, 6'3s is probably the most played. And now, I'm speaking in general terms. If I go into the park, I'm probably not going to see many little guards. But if you go in the rec and if you go in Pro-Am, yeah, you do, especially Pro-Am, you're going to see a lot of little guards, little guards. And not just at the 1, but at the 2. A lot of point guards can play as a second ball handler at the 2 position. But that's for a Pro-Am podcast. I'm not going to get into that too much. But if you've watched my videos, you've seen there's games where I get put at shooting guard position because my point guard build does not have the same pass accuracy as a pass first point guard build might have. So the game will push me to the 2, even though I'm tiny, and will end up facing guards that are way taller than me because of it. Anyway, small guards have to have good dribbling and good shooting because that's all they can do as a small guard. And it's a very hard position to play, right? It's not like, okay, everybody should make a small guard because it's the best and it's the easiest and you can do everything. That's not the case. What this user is complaining about, he actually said it. The comp community dominates with small guards. Why is that? Is it because they're using small guards, or is it because they're part of the comp community? I wouldn't put myself in the category of comp community, but I'm also not a casual. If we're going to talk about playtime and knowledge of the game and ability, stats, I think overall I'm probably closer to comp than I am to casual in that sense, in that regard. But I understand, as somebody who used small guard pretty much most of the year with videos and Pro-Am, videos in the rec, on my YouTube channel, you guys can check that out if you haven't. There's a lot of difficult decisions you have to make, especially because being a little guard with high shooting, high dribbling means you usually don't have enough points to put into a higher pass ac, meaning you have to be smarter with the ball when you pass the ball. Meaning, you have to know your dribbles, your combos. You have to know the shots you can take, the shots you can take, the shots that you know you can take, not just because you're a small point guard, but because of your own personal ability. So, give you guys an example. I was playing with a drift stick controller for most of the year, and I can actually look and tell you the date when I stopped. June 6th is when I stopped playing with the drift stick controller this year. So my controller was fine for the first few months. I think around January, February, it started to, like, I noticed my character would move on its own, it would jump on its own, try to get steals on its own. It was stuff to do with the right stick. And the right stick is the stick you use for dribbling. So it's the one I use for dribbling. And for layups, for floaters, for for important things that I need to do. And the stick drift got worse and worse and worse. And I noticed my abilities, I had to adapt to my controller, basically, right? And then I couldn't play the way that I thought I could. Of course, I got a new controller, and then everything went back to normal after an adjustment period, because me getting a new controller, actually, for the first few days, I still didn't really feel myself, because now I was adjusting to not playing with any drift, and I guess it was a little weird, but everything's good. But my point is, your abilities are not entirely dictated by the build that you make. And I think what this person was writing about is, that's probably the part that I don't agree with, is he believes if you're a small guard, your comp, therefore, you're picking the build that does the best stuff. And I don't think all of those correlate exactly like that. If I didn't have a good internet connection, I didn't have a good controller in working order, if I didn't have my gaming monitor and I wasn't sitting how I'm sitting, like in front of the monitor, I wouldn't be able to shoot 70%, 60 something percent, 25, 30 points a game, and if I didn't know my animations, know my jumper, I wouldn't be able to shoot all the middies, the fades, the 35 footers, you think of any shot that I've made, running backwards shots, I've made 79, I've made nearly 80% contested red shots, red contested shots, heavily contested. I've made all the yellows you can think of, but all of that is not because of the small build, because I've also done it on my 6'6" point guard. I've shot on my 7'1" center that has 65-3. I can shoot decently on that build. Under the right circumstances, if I need to make a shot, I'm going to make a shot with that 65-3. And also, that big has been averaging 20 rebounds per game all year. So there's things that are build specific, sure. But being a small point guard is not something that everybody should want to be. And I don't think giving small point guards good animations is catering to small point guards. That's how they're played. You look at Steph Curry, which, talking about what day it is today, it's just a day, not even 24 hours since Curry pretty much carried in the Olympics and shot all the crazy shots that he took, heavily contested in a lot of them. Impossible to make shots. 2K video game like shots. He's a little guard. He can do that. Now, should a little guard be able to do that easily? No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody should be able to shoot easily. But that's balancing stuff, and I guess that's it's something that takes time to get right. But I think 2K24 got pretty damn close. I think shooting, especially like later in the year, I think shooting was really good overall. And I can only hope that 2K25 improves on that. With all these new shooting methods, hopefully it's an improvement. Okay, that's enough. That's enough about that. I can briefly talk about NBA 2K subreddit. I am working, and I guess this is a present for those of you who've been listening till now, me talking about what I've been talking about. If you're listening to this, I've been talking to some 2K employees to get them to do some AMAs on the NBA 2K subreddit. I don't want to say who just yet, because I don't know yet when they'll be available. I think it'll be post-release of 2K25 because of certain, they can't talk before then for whatever reason. But at least two 2K employees will probably be doing AMAs in our subreddit. So you're the first people to hear about this. I have not tweeted about this, and I guess this will be a way of thanking you for listening for half an hour. So what should happen in these AMAs? It's an AMA. You ask anything. Reddit recently released a new AMA feature, and I thought, you know what? I want to use this feature. So I contacted some people, and they told me they would probably be able to do these AMAs in September. So I'm excited for that. I hope those happen. And of course, when they do happen, I'll announce them. I'll post about them. And another thing is I set a calendar on the NBA 2K subreddit on the sidebar. There should be a calendar that right now shows 2K25 news and like the week of when they will release. But after 2K25 launch, or when I know more, I'll actually change that calendar to be an AMA calendar. And I'll try to get, all the cool people that I possibly can to do AMAs. Hopefully people enjoy that. I will enjoy that, but hopefully the community also gets to enjoy that. And I think that's it for this episode, because this is a long episode of me rambling on about pretty much one question, one post, really. There are some locker codes from my team people. I think there's one. The locker code is 100-invincible-or-goat-card. I will actually write down this locker code in the description. You can get a 100 overall invincible or a goat card. So good luck if you're into that. If you didn't know about the card yet. Link to the post that I ranted on will be in the description. Link to the official Discord with the questions and answers will also be in the description. And I will post a link to all the badges in 2K25 in the description as well. So you can look at them, look at the description, read the badges. You'll be able to do that. So thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next one.